My name is Eleanor. I'm 32 years old and I work as a senior architect. There was a time in my life when I thought I was the luckiest daughter in the world because I had such a large, close-knit family. But the birthday dinner for my 6-year-old son, Robert, exposed a truth that had been staring me in the face for 10 years, a truth I had stubbornly refused to see. Last week was my father's 60th birthday. My sister-in-law, Chloe, booked a table at the city's most expensive upscale restaurant, the Grand Sapphire. Chloe had called ahead that afternoon to pre-order everything. My brother Marcus ordered expensive steaks for all of his kids, even down to his 4-year-old, who barely eats half his food anyway. Then the food parade stopped. Nothing was placed in front of my son Robert. He just sat there with his little hands folded in his lap, staring at the empty space where a plate should have been. Chloe didn't even pause her conversation. "Oh, we didn't order for your son," she said, sliding the breadbasket toward him like she was doing us a favor. "You know there's nothing on this menu for him anyway." And her mother, Margaret, studied her wine. My father, Arthur, didn't even look up as he added, "You should have packed him something from home." A 6-year-old boy, and he already knew his exact portion in this family, dry bread. Something in my chest went very quiet and very cold, the exact way it feels on a construction site right before I realize a massive structural mistake has been made. I smiled at my sister-in-law. I smiled at my father. "Noted," I said. Then I raised my hand, flagged down our waiter, and asked one question that completely changed the temperature of the table. "Are you still serving the full menu?" I ordered my son the full filet mignon, mashed potatoes, and the biggest chocolate lava cake on the menu. "On a separate check, please." Just his and mine. The table went dead silent. My mother leaned toward me, her voice soft as frosting. "Eleanor, you'll split the main bill with Marcus, won't you? Your father is on a fixed income." And there it was. That was the reality of every single family dinner. For the past 5 years, every outing had been billed as Dad's treat. But when the check came, my father would pat his jacket. My mother would murmur about his heart condition, and the bill would drift over to me and Marcus. Eventually, Marcus started conveniently forgetting his wallet. When the waiter brought Robert's steak and set it down, and my boy looked up at me like I had just performed magic, I stood up. I didn't make a scene. I'm an architect. I design structures, I don't throw tantrums. "Robert and I are going to finish our dinner," I announced calmly. "I am paying our check, just ours. And effective tonight, the family bank is closed." My mother's mouth dropped open. Marcus laughed, a sharp single note waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. Robert ate every single bite of that steak, and I drank my coffee slowly. I placed cash on our check, tipped the waiter generously, took my son's hand, and walked out past 40 years of marriage and $500 worth of unelected steaks. I honestly believed that dinner was the worst thing my family had ever done to me. I was off by a mile. Let me back up and tell you who I am, because it matters. I'm a senior architect. I'm a single mother. Self-made isn't a brag when you're doing it alone. It's just your work schedule. I wasn't a doormat. I had said no plenty of times before. No to a timeshare. No to Marcus's sketchy business ideas. No to chipping in for their hot tub. And every single no cost me a week of my mother's. Icy silence and a relentless month of the family phone tree calling me ungrateful. I paid $600 a month toward my father's medications and household bills because it was cheaper than the alternative. Watching Robert get frozen out of family holidays. I thought I knew exactly what my family was costing me. It turned out I only knew the visible line items. This story is really about a house. A little vintage 2-bedroom bungalow on Elmira Street. Just 6 minutes from Robert's school. With a wraparound porch and a massive oak tree in the backyard. I had saved $40,000 for the down payment. 6 years of grueling overtime. 6 years of skipped vacations. And taking on every dead-end project nobody else wanted. Every dollar had a purpose. And that purpose was a bedroom window. Facing east so the morning light would wake my son up instead of an alarm clock. My loan officer was a no-nonsense woman named Dana. She liked my file. Steady employment, clean payment history, healthy down payment. All I had to do was pass underwriting. People think underwriting is just paperwork. It isn't. It's an X-ray. It finds everything, including the things you didn't even know were hiding inside your financial history. 2 weeks after that anniversary dinner, my phone rang. Dana's voice was tense. The X-ray had come back with a shadow. Flag 1, the SUV loan for Marcus that I had co-signed. Years ago for $35,000. It was 90 days. Delinquent. Chloe was driving around in designer clothes, while my pristine credit score was taking a massive $35,000 hit. Flag 2, a Visa credit card with a $12,000 balance. Opened 4 years ago. Billing address? My parents' house. The minimum payments had been made on time every single month for 4 years. Never late, never flagged. The only problem? I didn't own a Visa. Someone had opened a credit card in my name. And this is the part that still haunts me. They had protected it faithfully, maintaining it like a piece of machinery they planned to keep using forever. I pulled the transaction history. The pharmacy down the road, the grocery store, my mother's salon visits every 5 weeks like clockwork, and the Grand Sapphire. Birthdays, Easters, anniversaries. That very steak my nephew didn't even want? It had likely been charged to a card wearing my name. I didn't yell. I opened Excel and made a spreadsheet. Dates, amounts, categories. And then I looked at the one thing the spreadsheet couldn't explain away. There were 2 people living in that house on Fairground Road, and only one of them kept the books. I drove to my parents' house on my day off with the printouts in a folder. I wanted to watch my mother's face when she saw them. I've spent my career analyzing structural integrity. I know what failure looks like. My mother, Margaret, looked at 4 years of identity fraud in her own kitchen and didn't even flinch. She just adjusted her glasses. Your credit score was the best in the family, she said smoothly, as if reading a quarterly business report. We put it where it would do the most good. Family shares, Eleanor. No denial, no guilt. She said it like a corporate treasurer. I asked her if she understood what she had done. She actually laughed, a small, patronizing sound. A house? And who paid for the gas that got you through architecture school? You are an investment. Investments pay out. That is the order of things. My father stood in the doorway, quietly wiping his hands on a rag, refusing to meet my eyes. I realized then that my mother didn't believe she had stolen anything. In her mind, she was managing a shared corporate asset, and I was the asset. I told her I needed the account closed and my name cleared immediately because I was buying a house. She just shook her head. That evening, I went into my father's study while they were out. I opened his heavy oak desk drawer. Right where I expected it to be was a green cloth ledger with masking tape across the front, labeled in my mother's neat handwriting, household. I opened it and my entire childhood was itemized inside. Braces, $4,500. Prom dress, $200. College gas money, $50 a week. And running down the margin, 5% interest. My mother had been charging me interest before I was even old enough to vote. Opposite that were pages of paid, every summer. I spent babysitting. Chloe's kids logged like invoices. Every paycheck from my first job signed over and credited line by line. I flipped to Chloe's pages. Cheer camp, wedding dresses, down payments. Next to every single entry for my sister-in-law, my mother had written one simple word in her pretty slant: gift. And then I turned to the very newest page. The ink was still dark. The heading at the top was a single initial, R. School shoes. 75s, the exact sneakers my mother gave Robert in September. The ones he wore to bed because he loved them too much to take off. Birthday bicycle, 250. Gifts, that's what we had called them to his face. But in the ledger, they were entered as receivables. They had opened an account on my 6-year-old son before. He could even spell his own name. I closed the ledger, put it back, locked the front door behind me, and sat in my car for 10 minutes with my hands locked at 10 and 2. Monday morning, before my shift, I did 3 things that could never be undone. I canceled the $600 monthly transfer to my parents with 2 clicks. I froze my credit across all 3 major bureaus. I filed a formal fraud dispute on the Visa card. I didn't send my family a letter. I let the bank do it. Banks don't soften their fonts. 3 days later, the $600 didn't land in their account, and my phone started blowing up. My mother's voicemail. You embarrassed your family, Eleanor, after everything we've done for you. By Tuesday, a collections agency called my office because Marcus had listed my work number as a reference for his delinquent truck loan. My loan officer, Dana, called with a hard deadline. To save the house and clear my DTI debt-to-income ratio, I needed to file a formal police report and a notarized affidavit for identity theft. Fraud isn't fraud, Dana told me quietly, until you're willing to name the person who did it. I sat across a metal desk from a tired detective at the police station. To get my name back, I had to write my mother's name down in a small box on a government form and mean it. It took me 3 days of staring at that blank affidavit on my kitchen table to finally sign it. Sunday evening, Marcus texted, "Dad's in the ER with chest pains. Happy now?" I rushed to the hospital. Half of me was a terrified daughter. The other half was a pragmatist who already knew the timing. His troponin levels were negative. His EKG was clean. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a body keeping the books its owner refused to open. At 3 a.m. in the empty hospital waiting room, my mother laid out her final terms. Like a CEO sliding a hostile takeover across a table. Withdraw the dispute. Quietly settle the car debt. Resume your monthly financial support. Increase to $750. And show up at your father's birthday dinner at the Grand Sapphire on Saturday, sitting quietly in your place. And if you file those papers, Eleanor, she whispered, her eyes dead and cold, you will not have a family anymore. And Robert won't have grandparents. You'll have done that to him. My son, used as a bargaining chip? I stood up, buttoned my coat, and looked down at her. Noted, I said. Saturday night. The Grand Sapphire. The exact same table by the fireplace. My mother reserved it on purpose, believing she had won. But everything was different this time. A booster seat was already set for Robert. Crayons fanned out like a white flag. Chloe greeted me with a terrifyingly polite smile. As the plates were cleared, my mother tapped her wine glass with a silver spoon. Before dessert, she beamed, I have a gift for Eleanor. She handed me a heavy cream envelope tied with a gold ribbon. For a split second, the little girl inside me hoped for an apology. I untied it. Inside was a single typed page, family repayment plan. Item 1, withdraw the dispute. Item 2, assume the visa balance. Item 3, resume support at $750 a month. Item 4, in exchange, Robert gets full family access. A signature line was already filled out with the date in my mother's handwriting. Marcus produced a gold-capped pen from his pocket. My mother folded her hands, wearing her saintly church smile. Sign it, sweetheart, and this family will be whole again. Family means never counting what things cost. I looked at the pen. I looked at my son, happily halfway through a steak he didn't have to earn. Then I stood up. I didn't yell. I spoke in the quiet, steady voice that commands a room. I am not signing this, I said clearly. I placed the repayment plan right over the bread basket. I pulled out cash for our meals, added a generous tip under the salt, shaker, paying strictly for what we ordered, and looked straight at my mother. The ledger is closed, I said. I took Robert's hand, walked past the white tablecloths, and stepped out into the cool night air. My father caught up to me in the parking lot, out of breath. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking down at the asphalt. I can't ever stand up to her, he muttered, his voice breaking slightly. I ran out of the strength to do it a long, long time ago. But I see all of it, Eleanor. I always have. And what you did in there? He trailed off, shaking his head. He never finished the sentence. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need him to. 2 weeks later, Dana called with the news I had been waiting for. The dispute cleared. The blue house is yours to close on. On moving day, my friends and former colleagues showed up with boxes and laughter, shoving my secondhand sofa through the front door sideways. We set up Robert's dinosaur bed right against the left wall of his new bedroom, under the east-facing window. When the morning sun crested the horizon, it didn't shine on an alarm clock or an invoice. It streamed straight across his blankets, completely free of charge. My family's silence has been absolute ever since. Marcus and Chloe tried calling once or twice for loans, when the reality of their own finances started crashing down, but I simply left them on red. These days, Saturday mornings belong to a small diner 4 blocks from my new house, a place with vinyl booths and a waitress named Dot who calls everyone honey. Robert orders first, and nobody asks him if he's earned it. Nobody slides him a breadbasket, and nobody is keeping score in a green book. Love that keeps a ledger was never love at all. It was just a loan shark in disguise. And the bravest thing you can ever do is close the book, pay for your own pancakes, and teach your children that a seat at the table is a birthright, never a bill.